welcome back to my kitchen, where today I'm going to make a West Virginia favorite, pepperoni rolls. Pepperoni rolls are just pepperoni and bread. Everybody who is an outsider who wants one and tries one, they're like, oh, where's the sauce? Where's the cheese? It's not missing that. Okay, so the story goes, when, coal mining was, West Virginia's main source of income. Okay, for as far back as I can remember, and even way back before me. But anyway, there was an Italian miner, and he saw other miners sitting there eating a stick of meat and their bread, and they were all kind of doing this and going back and forth, and he thought, why not just put them together? Brilliant. So that's what they did. Now, there are two camps of pepperoni rolls. Some people use the slices, some people use the sticks. I like to use the slices. I feel like I can get them incorporated throughout better. With the stick, you take a bite and then, sometimes the whole stick comes out and then you're left with just a handful of bread. Okay, so we're going to make pepperoni rolls my favorite way. Okay, so we're going to start with, we've got to activate our yeast. So we're going to use a half cup of warm water. We want it warm, but not hot. Pardon me, measuring cup is over there. Found it. Okay, we're gonna start with a half a cup of warm water, not hot. You don't wanna kill the yeast. You put that in your mixing bowl. One packet, or if you have the canister like this, 1 tablespoon of yeast goes in. Bang it because it likes to stick to the sides. And 1 tablespoon of sugar. Put that in, mix it around. And right now it just looks like water with sand in it. In fact, I'll show you. Okay, that's what it looks like right now. But we're gonna let that sit for about, there we go. We're gonna let that sit for about 5 minutes. And that yeast is gonna start to activate, and it's going to look foamy. Pardon me for the meowing in the background because my cat's walking around. I'm in the kitchen, so she thinks she needs food, even though I fed her once this morning. Okay, so that's gonna sit for 5 minutes. Okay, this is such an easy recipe. It actually comes from Julia Child's white sandwich bread recipe, but I like to use it because it's just so versatile, and you can do so many things with it. You can add things, flavorings, and it's awesome. Okay, so that's sitting there for 5 minutes, and then we are going to add 6 to 6.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So I've got 6 cups here. I like to start on the lower side because you can always add more. And to this, we've got 2 teaspoons of salt. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of butter, which is half a stick of room temperature butter. You want it to be totally soft so it gets incorporated well. It's not like we're making biscuits where you want it to be cold. This, you want it to be soft so it incorporates well. And then we're also going to add more warm water. We're going to need 2 more cups of warm water. Okay, so we're letting this sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll add everything else. Okay, and it's been 5 minutes, so let me bring you over to look in this mixing bowl so you can see just how foamy that got. It should look like that. If it doesn't get foamy like that, then your yeast is not good anymore. So you need to throw it out and try again, okay? I know, that's a bummer. Okay, so now we're ready to add the other ingredients. So according to the recipe, we add all the 2 cups of warm water, still warm. Add that to the yeast. I'll set that to the side. Okay, in my bowl here, I have the 6 cups of all-purpose flour along with the 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to put half of this in. Not quite half. Okay, and then I'm going to put my dough hook on. And I'm just going to get that starting to mix together. And then I'm going to put the butter in. Remember, that's half a stick or 1/4 cup of butter, totally room temperature. it's gonna go in, and then I'm gonna put the rest of the flour in. Right now we're just giving it a chance to mix a little bit. Turn up that a little bit. Okay. I'll put the butter. And the rest of the flour. I'm going to turn this off so I don't wear the flour. And we turn it back on. I'm going to leave that low because in just a second when I turn the camera off, I'm going to speed it up. And it needs to incorporate and mix. The dough hook needs to go for 8 minutes. You could do this by hand. That's going to take a long time. But 8 minutes with your stand mixer with the dough hook. Okay, so the mixing has been going on for 8 minutes. So it looks like this. And look, it's a very wet looking dough, which is why the recipe says 6 to 6.5 cups of flour. We could probably use a little more flour. So I'm going to, it also asks us to pour it out. So this is a clean surface that I have sprinkled with all-purpose flour. See, that's pouring out. It's not quite batter, but it's not holding together like dough. And so I'm going to just use my hand because I'm going to get my hands dirty here in a minute. Anyway, so jewelry off, clean hands, along with your clean surfaces. You scoop all that out. This is really sticking to the inside of the bowl, okay? Note to self, next time go maybe 6.25 to stir, but okay, because we are definitely gonna need some more flour. So the process now is that it's already kneaded, okay? It's already very well incorporated, and this is not a mistake right now. It's okay, it's a little wetter than we like, but we can fix that. So we are going to incorporate just a little bit more flour because we want it to be in a ball, not a hard ball, but we want it to kind of hold its shape because it needs to rise. Okay, so I'm going to use the flour that's on the surface. I'm going to knead it in. And see, it's already starting to hold together better. You can see right here, it's holding itself in a little mound better. So I'm going to very carefully add more flour because it certainly wants to stick to the counter, to the unfloured surfaces. Flour out of the way. And see, now, there it is. Okay, so dust away some of the excess flour, get excess dough off my hands. Again, very clean hands before you start. And then you just want to gather it all up and you're going to put it right back in that mixing bowl. You don't have to wash the mixing bowl. Nope, that's all right. It's just going right back in there. Ta-da. And that is going to sit for 1.5 to 2 hours until it doubles in size. And then we're going to come back and we're going to make the rolls. Okay. Oh, one more thing. Before you let it sit for 1.5 to 2 hours, cover it. Cover it and put it in somewhere warm but not hot. Okay, we're going to do that. And while it's sitting, feel free to clean this up, sanitize it, and then you're gonna need it again when we're ready to actually make the rolls. But you don't want it to just sit here for a couple hours and, you know, be like that and stick to everything. So if you have one of these scrapers, this is a fantastic tool to just scrape it all up into the trash and then wipe it down. Okay, so we have waited now 2 hours and this has risen. Look how beautiful it is. So it may be hard to tell with the black, but just see how that's above the bowl. So I'm excited to look at it because when we left it was like half full, which means it's doubled in size, and voila, there it is. Okay, so we put that to the side. Joy off again. Okay, so now it's time to just roll this out before we start getting our hands all dirty. Make sure you have a ginormous pack of pepperoni. My preference is slices, doesn't have to be. And then I have a couple of pans here that I have a silicone mat. Doesn't have to be, you could use foil, parchment, or just spray your pan. But I like the easy cleanup and the way they come off of the silicone mat. So I've got a couple pans sitting like this over to the side. So as you see me do one, you'll see me put it over there, and that's where it's going. Okay, first things first. Countertop is cleaned, check. Hands are clean, also check. So we're going to sprinkle with flour. I'm going to sprinkle my hands with flour. And for this, I also have my little cutter standing by because I think that really helps with this. Okay, now this, if you're using the recipe to make the sandwich bread, it would make 2 loaves. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what we're starting out with here. Oh, look how pretty that is. Just comes out so nice. Okay, I'm going to get a spatula. Pardon me. You can see it kind of leaves that ring because that's like another whole pepperoni roll right there. I'm getting all those doughy bits out. Okay. I'm putting some flour on my hands. Little bit of flour on the top. I'm just gonna kind of knead it a little bit. It's kind of really just turning the part that was so wet that was sticking to the side of the bowl to the inside, so the outside of it doesn't feel sticky anymore. That's all we're doing there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is a little bit, it's a little bit off camera here, you can't really see that, but I just made a little bit, I just floured the surface over there too, because I'm going to work with this and make smaller portions. So first I'm going to cut this in half-ish. Doesn't have to be exactly in half. Okay, and then I put the rest of that over in the flour just to the side. So I don't have so much dough to work with. Okay, I think I could use a little more sprinkling here because I'm going to flatten it out, which means I don't have everything I need. I need my rolling pin. Okay, to keep the dough from sticking to your rolling pin, we're going to put it in flour, and we're going to roll it out. I'm aiming for a rectangle here. Somewhere about there. Now, if I were going to be making bread, this is where I would fold it in thirds, and I've tried to get it a little more like a rectangle. Since this is going to be rolls, it doesn't really matter. But I would fold it in thirds and put it in a greased loaf pan, let it rise again, and then bake. But here we digress. So I'm going to cut it, and let's see. how many pieces we're going to cut this into. So first I'm going to cut it in half. And cut it in half again. So we're cutting it into quarters. And obviously these pieces are a little bigger than this, so. And this one down here is very large. Oops. And we're going to be turning these into our pepperoni rolls so they don't have to stay flat and perfect. Okay, but I'm going to flatten each one out. And roll it back out. This is a bit too small, so I'm going to put two together. Aha, that feels better. Okay, I'm going to put a few slices. Pepperoni going this way. And to roll it. And then a few more slices because it will rise, and so the pepperoni will be much farther apart later. And turn it over, and just like that. So it looks like I shouldn't have done them quite so big, or quite so small. So now I'm doubling up. That's okay. One more flour so it doesn't stick. Just some slices, it doesn't matter exactly how many, just where it looks good to you. Going to roll it up. Another, whoops, another row of slices. That's a little much. I like to fold the ends over, kind of like a burrito. And just make sure all the pepperoni is covered up. The edges are sealed. Just like that. And I'm certain to have some long ones and some short ones and skinny ones, and that's okay. They don't all have to be exactly uniform. If you wanted them all exactly uniform, obviously you can make bigger efforts to do so. But this is just for me at home, so I'm okay. You can make them long, short, fat, skinny, your preference. It's hard to go wrong with these. They're just delicious. Smells amazing, that yeasty dough. That one's stuck. Okay. Coax it off of my counter there a little bit. You want a generous amount of pepperoni because, as I said, these will rise. You don't want to feel like you are lacking as you're eating it. I always find it good to seal at the ends. That's so pretty. It's just something fun about making these too. Okay, well, think you need to watch me do all of these, so I'm going to turn the camera off and I'm just going to continue for so it looks like, 8 to 10 pepperoni rolls from this half, and then I've got the other half to do. So I'll show you what it looks like when I've got them all rolled up. Okay, I brought you back a little soon because I told you I would come back when they're all rolled up. But the second half I rolled out and then I cut into 8 equal pieces, equal mostly. And let me tell you, it's so much better than having those little tiny squares and patting them out and trying to get it together. This is just going together beautifully. So that's what I would recommend. Take each half, flatten it out, and roll it into about 8 equal pieces. And then that way, you don't have to worry about flattening each piece out again. Okay, so let's do that. And now I'll finish rolling up. Okay, and we are back. This is what they look like. And, I didn't cut the first ones exactly squares. I got some big ones and little ones, and that's okay. They'll all taste delicious, as long as you don't compare it to your neighbors, right? So now we are going to cover them and let them sit for about an hour, and they will really puff up in size, and then we will bake. So I'll get these covered and I'll be back with you when they're big and puffy, and we'll put them in the oven. Okay, so we are finished waiting to let them rise. So let's take a look here, and they have risen. So now we're going to bake them in a preheated oven that's 375 degrees for about 30 minutes or until they're golden brown. Okay, I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Okay, and we are out of the oven. They spent 30 minutes at 375 degrees. And when I brought them out, they still had a little bit of flour on the top, even though they were baked. So I oiled a little bit on the top, put them in broiled, let the tops of them brown, and look at these little lovelies. They're hot and steamy, and then when we pull them apart, or cut them open, let me cut one of them so you can see what the inside looks like. Yummy, delicious, food of West Virginia, pepperoni rolls. I hope you try them because they are delicious. Talk to you again soon.